Hey everyone, Marty Sleeve alongside Mitch Dyer.
Hello.
Mitch, we're going to talk about a cool game.
Yeah.
A cool game called Firewatch.
That's our first IGN First for
the month of March.
March.
We're kind of chronicling a handful of different games, ones that we're super excited for.
Yeah.
We got to see a huge new chunk of Firewatch, an updated version of the build we saw at PAX East. Or at PAX Prime. Man, it looks really good. What sort of stuck out to you in this demo?
So we saw it, and you're going to see a lot of footage on IGN. We're going to have a lot of video, dev commentary, stuff like that. But we saw at PAX, we saw this really interesting interaction between Henry, the main character, who's constantly on his walkie-talkie talking to his boss Delilah, observing and reporting on his job as a lookout. He sees like these kids setting off fireworks, stuff like that. But now we're starting to see more of his relationship with Delilah as they kind of just talk about like, hey, sorry about what happened yesterday, and you're like, what happened yesterday? Let's find out and have these conversations. It's those interactions that like really stand out for me. Yeah,
it's sort of, you're able to kind of paint in what sort of relationship the two of them are going to have. It's not like totally informing it, but there's a really earlier on you can sort of start talking with her, and if you branch it off in a certain way, she'll be talking. You'll be like, "Why are the lights still on?" Because it's night. Why are the lights still on in your lookout house? And she's like, "Oh, I'm doing a crossword puzzle." And if you get to that point in the dialogue, later on, your tower gets ransacked, and you're worried, and you're talking to her, and you're like, "Did you see anything?" And she says no. And if you got that crossword puzzle decision before, you sort of like lash out at her, and we're like, "Well, were you on your crossword puzzle? Were you paying attention?"
If you decide that Henry's going to be this kind of a-hole character, you can be like, "Oh yeah, well, maybe you should be paying attention to doing your job."
It's crazy how naturally everything just weaves together. Like it feels like this conversation that you have in the game is like bespoke and written and recorded for your playthrough, whereas now it's pulling in. I mean, there's so many variables and differences depending on what you've already done.
Like you behave as though you have this agency, and you do obviously, but you behave as though like, oh, I'm having this like dynamic and emergent experience where I'm like, I'm calling the shots. But the game is responding to everything you're doing in a really intelligent, natural, believable way. Yeah. Like I believe that these people are people.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just sort of the crosstalk and these subjects they talk about.
Yeah.
Like it's not, a lot of it's talking about things without talking about it, which is sort of rare in video games. Video games tend to be very on the nose with what we're talking about.
Because they need to move along very quickly.
Yeah, whereas this is sort of talking around it. The dialogue is one of the coolest things. And then, the other thing that I thought was really cool was there's some light sort of Metroidvania, I mean, for lack of a better term, exploration aspects of the game where as you sort of progress, you get different items like a lantern that'll allow you to see in the dark. You might get a key that opens a door in a mine, or a hatchet that can chop down a tree and open a new part of the world. And I kind of like that. It's the story is somewhat linear, but the world is open in a way that I might see things that you didn't, or I might see things in a different order.
And you'll have interactions at those places. Like we talked to Sean Vanneman and Jake Rodkin from Campo Sampo, and the example they gave is like you might find this burned down lookout tower, and early on in the summer during Henry's career as a lookout, you'll go there and be like, "Oh, what's this tower?" And you'll have a conversation with her about it if you find it. Yeah. Later on in the game, when their relationship's like completely different, you could find that. And depending on, like, I don't know what's happened, but things are very different. She will have the response like, I don't care. Like, why are you why are you talking to me about this?
We have more important things than this burned down tower. Firewatch looks super cool. We're really excited about it.
Big time.
For the rest of the week, we're going to have a full, almost 20-minute demo.
Yeah.
We're going to have a 20-minute demo with Jake and Sean doing commentary over it, some interview stuff. And again, for the entire month of March, we're going to be highlighting a handful of really cool games that we're all excited about. So for everything else, Firewatch and just burned out lookout towers, you're already in the right place. IGN.com.